those of you who do not know me well, I'm Aaron Boersma. My wife is Janie. We're typically the couple that's wrestling two kids on the front row during communion, which you've probably seen because they're all over the place. But I was asked to kind of talk about really the way that All Saints has completely changed, frankly, the trajectory of our family. A little bit of background: my wife and I moved here from Jackson, Mississippi in 2020, January of 2020, which, as you can all imagine, is the perfect time to move to a brand new place where you know absolutely no one. And we wound up at All Saints. Actually, it was a seminary classmate of Tim's that just said two things. One, I have this friend whose last name is Frickenschmidt. And I said, there's no way that's true. And then two, he said, I don't know much about his church, but I know that they've got something really interesting going on there. And again, whether he actually knew anything about it or not, who knows? And so as we were looking at moving to Austin, we came to All Saints and we left, and my wife said, if this is where we go to church, I'll move here. Of course, I was like, oh, thank heavens. Because at the time we were thinking, do we move to Nashville, where we know lots of people? Do we move to Dallas, where we know lots of people? Austin, we know no one, but we knew All Saints, and it was incredibly engaging for our family. And I think the two aspects that Tim pointed out of a very engaging liturgy and a community that you could tell was an outpouring of really centering out corporate worship, and the humility that will bring on a continuing basis. And so we have loved every second of being at All Saints, but really the ways that we started to feel All Saints in a very tangible way was actually in April of 2021. So within 8 days, like on the thumbs up, we gave birth to our youngest son, Charlie. And then 8 days later, my wife's sister passed away of cancer. And it was, what's in Christ alone, from life's first cry to final breath. We experienced all of that in 8 days. And we were just trying to figure out which way was up because we had no earthly idea. And frankly, at the time, we were still getting to know folks at All Saints. And what this church did blew my wife and I's mind. Not only did this church feed us, which in Southern hospitality, of course you get fed, right? But we had a family who took a room in their house, made it into a nursery, and kept our youngest twice a week so that my wife could just grieve. I had a group of men who surrounded me in prayer, including Ryan over here, who just leaned in and said, yes, this is hard, and this is where we are, right? God does not promise us all the good, but what he does promise is that we can see him at any point in time, good, bad, indifferent. And what we began to experience in a really meaningful way is that this posture of worshiping together, acknowledging where we fall short, where God fills in, and the beauty that's associated there, day in and day out on Sunday. What we were experiencing around us was exactly that, right? In an incredibly tangible way. And for us, what we realized is Sunday morning began to, frankly, feel much different than it ever did before. We loved the worship at All Saints, but I think we began to experience that in a very new way because we were standing arm in arm with our brothers and sisters in worship. And it continues to remind me that the church is God's people. And even in thinking about, this capital campaign, what's coming ahead is the hope that more of us can be gathered together as the saints on a Sunday. What joy that is, day in and day out, is incredibly exciting. There's actually, let me pull this out so I don't forget it. I've been reading through Ephesians lately, and it talks about, in chapter 2, where Paul's kind of emphasizing this idea of unity across his people. In verse 26, it says, "In him you also are being built together into a dwelling place for God by the Spirit." And that's what All Saints is for us. In a way that we have hurt with many a people at All Saints, and we have celebrated life's highs. But just knowing that we are being knit together on a regular basis is very difficult to put words to. But we love All Saints. We have found family here, and that we couldn't have asked for it.